Any Nigerian who wants President Bola Tinubu to continue in office beyond 2027 does not want the progress of Nigeria and her citizens. Ex-Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi State is a case study. Some Nigerians have criticized calls by former Ebonyi State Governor and current Minister of Works, David Umahi, urging Nigerians, particularly those from the southeast, to support the re-election of President Bola Tinubu in 2027. Somehow, critics argue that the current administration has not met the expectations of many Nigerians. They point to the rising cost of living, insecurity and economic hardship as reasons why they believe the country requires a change in leadership after the 2027 general election. According to reports, Mr. David Umahi has publicly defended President Tinubu's administration and urged Nigerians to support his re-election, arguing that the government has delivered meaningful projects, especially in the southeast. However, many Nigerians who disagree with this position believe the administration's performance has not justified another term in office. Critics have also alleged that Mr. Umahi's support for President Tinubu is driven by personal and political interests. They further argue that if a future administration with a stronger anti-corruption agenda assumes office, former and current public office holders may be required to account for how public funds were managed during their tenure. These remain allegations and political opinions that have not been established by any court of law. Many Nigerians believe the 2027 general election will provide citizens with another opportunity to determine the country's future direction. They argue that voters should carefully assess the performance, integrity and policies of all candidates before deciding who should lead Nigeria. As political activities continue to gather momentum, many Nigerians are urging fellow citizens to vote according to their conscience and in what they believe is the best interest of the country's future. If Nigeria as a country has laws that work, ex-Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State should not have been on the ballot for Kogi State senatorial seat, including others like him. Many Nigerians have continued to express concern over the participation of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello in electoral politics while corruption allegations against him remain before the courts. Somehow, critics argue that individuals facing serious corruption allegations should first clear their names through the judicial process before seeking elective office. They believe this would strengthen public confidence in Nigeria's democratic institutions and anti-corruption efforts. Former Governor Yahaya Bello has faced allegations of financial misconduct, which he has denied, and the matters remain subject to legal proceedings. Supporters of Mr. Bello maintain that, under the Nigerian constitution, every citizen is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of law. However, many Nigerians believe that the country's legal and political systems should establish higher standards of accountability for those seeking public office. They argue that aspiring leaders should not only satisfy constitutional requirements but should also demonstrate integrity and maintain public confidence. Critics further contend that strengthening Nigeria's institutions would discourage corruption and ensure that only individuals with credible public records are entrusted with leadership positions. They believe this would contribute to better governance and improve public trust in the electoral process. As political activities continue ahead of future elections, many Nigerians are calling for greater transparency, accountability and strict adherence to the rule of law in determining those who seek to occupy public office. If Nigerians can elect a leader in 2027 who is not a thief, then the economic hardship they are facing would be reduced at least by 60%. Many Nigerians believe that electing leaders with integrity and a strong commitment to accountability is essential to improving the country's economy and reducing the hardship faced by millions of citizens. Somehow, supporters of Mr. Peter Obi argue that, based on his public record and leadership style, he stands out as one of the leading contenders for the 2027 presidential election. They believe he possesses the discipline and prudence required to manage Nigeria's resources more effectively than previous administrations. Supporters also point to Mr. Peter Obi's record in public office, arguing that there are no proven findings of corruption against him. They further note reports that he declined certain financial benefits available to former governors, describing this as an indication of personal contentment and a commitment to public service over personal gain. Mr. Obi has publicly spoken about his views on prudent management of public resources, while his political opponents have offered different assessments of his record. Many of his supporters believe that reducing corruption, promoting transparency and ensuring prudent management of public funds would help improve the economy, create jobs and ease the burden on ordinary Nigerians. However, the claim that economic hardship would be reduced by a specific percentage if a particular candidate were elected is a matter of political opinion rather than an established fact. Critics of Nigeria's political culture also argue that voting should be based on competence, integrity and the ability to govern effectively rather than ethnic or regional considerations. They believe that prioritizing merit over identity would strengthen the country's democracy and improve governance. As the 2027 general election approaches, many Nigerians continue to urge voters to carefully examine the records, policies and leadership qualities of all candidates before deciding who should lead the country. Nigerians around the world have started dragging ex-Governor David Umahi over his conduct in public office. Some Nigerians at home and abroad have continued to criticize former Ebonyi State Governor and current Minister of Works, David Umahi, questioning his record in public office and calling for greater accountability from political leaders. Somehow, critics have raised questions about Mr. Umahi's wealth and stewardship during his years in government. They argue that every public office holder should be able to account for assets acquired while serving in office and demonstrate that public resources were managed transparently and in accordance with the law. The Viewers' Corner news correspondent in Abuja gathered that some critics have also alleged that Mr. Umahi's rise in politics and his conduct while in office deserve closer public scrutiny. They further alleged that he has used his current position as Minister of Works to benefit himself and some of his associates. However, these allegations have not been established by a court of law, and Mr. Umahi has publicly denied wrongdoing on various occasions. Many Nigerians believe that anyone entrusted with public office should uphold the highest standards of integrity, accountability and transparency. They argue that any credible allegations of corruption or abuse of office against public officials should be thoroughly investigated by the appropriate authorities, irrespective of political affiliation or status. Critics further maintain that future administrations should continue strengthening anti-corruption efforts by ensuring that former governors, ministers and other public office holders account for how public funds were managed during their tenure. They believe that where evidence of wrongdoing exists, those responsible should be prosecuted in accordance with the law. As public debate over accountability continues, many Nigerians are calling for stronger institutions, transparent governance and the equal application of the law to all citizens, regardless of their position or influence.